Sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? Going on, Coach Paul?
I hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay. How are you doing today?
Doing good, doing good. Welcome to all of our buzzer beaters. How are you doing today, Coach?
Um, little bored. Uh, this the action happened. Most of the action happened last night, but as we review, we'll see. How about yourself? Nice job on fast markets today.
Yeah, it was a good time. Neither myself or Dakota found a trade that we really liked, but we were able to talk through some house account trades. We'll talk about what we were seeing in the market. I think you and I talked after we got off yesterday about a little bit about the hesitation I think I'm seeing in my trading coach. Kind of showed up again today, but for me, it was nice to have a day off of not making a trading decision and kind of just analyzing the market, seeing that things that I'm looking at do work out, and not having to put a trade on. So I know a bunch of traders caught some of the trades that we look for on a day-to-day basis. So shout out to the traders that caught that. But it was a nice day to not do anything, even being on air, right? Practicing, you know, analyzing the markets, reading it well, and going from there. But let's check the calendar real quick. There was not much as far as planned news goes. Um, of course, with new administration coming in and the constant potential for a headline, right? We are in markets that are going to be volatile, right? Susceptible to any kind of tweet or news about tariffs, taxes, whatever it is. We're not going to comment on those all the time. If there's a big one that changes market structure, I think it's important to know. But for right now, no planned news. We do have jobless claims out tomorrow. We have crude inventories out tomorrow as well. And some news later on in the week. We have PMI numbers coming out later in the week. So a little bit for the markets to look forward to. But with that being said, it's still some pretty good trading out there. What about you, Coach? Anything on the news side?
Um, I just want to reiterate what you said. And any headline news event can happen at any time in this administration. Um, just to reiterate, be prepared when you enter an order, have your stop in. But other than that, we're just following the trend higher. Um, and let's start the review.
Let's start the review. Oh, I just realized I got to sign into a different version of Topstep X. Give me 1 second here. Let me log out and log in over there so we can get our quote board. All right. So there are 35 different markets that we can trade with Topstep accounts. It's not just the equities. Um, to the downside today, we had RBOB gasoline futures down 1.39%, heating oil down 2.55%, and ZL, is that soybean oil? Soybean oil down two,
Yep.
soybean oil down 2.8% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. To the upside, we had the Nikkei up 1.27%. Soybean meal up 1.54%, and nat gas, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, 6.18%. Uh, consistent. I did put the spreadsheet together. We'll share it on the last day of the month, and just to get an idea. I might put some visualizations together to see, which one of these markets are the most consistent in that top three. But nat gas is a front runner for sure.
Any day that ends in Y and it's going to be in the top percentage.
Right. Uh, to talk about our big four, we had the S&Ps up 0.51%, the Nasdaq up 1.21%, gold up 0.23%, and crude oil, the only mover to the downside in our big four, down 0.58%. Lioness Rain, you've been trading very well lately. I see you said you got to go walk the dogs. Up 1,500 in one account, down 235 in another. You've been trading really well lately. Um, Great to hear it and enjoy the walk with the dogs. Let us know in the chat how your day went. Were you up on the day, down on the day, stayed flat today? Anything that you learned from the day, and we'll get into the charts. I have a NASDAQ chart up here, coach. I'm going to go out to a 30-minute chart. And from last night's opening, it was a buy. It was a buy. Here's a 30-minute opening range from last night. We saw a little bit of buying into that close yesterday. We know we had Netflix earnings that came out favorable for Netflix, and Netflix gapped up. I didn't check the price. I don't know where Netflix is trading right now, but I think it is still up on the day. Uh, but seeing a little bit of urgency, it wasn't the the quickest move up, but more of a kind of slow grind into the New York session. I think we were up about a percentage point by the time we got to the New York Open. Um, Go ahead, Coach.
No, it's once again, it was urgency last night off that Netflix earnings. Um, and for once, it started in Asia and it didn't fade in London. It just picked up and finished with the U.S. Open. It was a consistent. I can't say this word easy, but it was a very consistent trade.
Consistent, kind of one directional trade. I think even coming into the New York session, by the time we were up a full percentage, it's hard to sell a market like this. So although Dakota and I may not have taken trades in fast markets to get in with this trend, uh, not fading this move before it was time to. I think I'm going to consider a winning day, right? Sometimes we might look at markets and say, "Oh, they're up too much, so they need to come down." And that gets you in some pretty bad trades. So I'm going to go down to a shorter time frame chart. Let's look at a 3 minute opening range here. Um, the 3 minute opening range, that purple box there. Again, if we attach VWAP to it, and a bunch of people were calling this out in the chat. I'm going to switch this one to yellow. Yellow is going to be that full day. Red is the New York session. Um, Took a little while to break out. We were talking about markets being up a percent as we open, maybe needing a little bit of patience before we look to get into a trade. Uh, you could have bought here where the full session VWAP was holding, but that first 15 minutes or so, first half an hour, the market had not chosen a direction yet. And we've talked about this before, Coach. When we kind of reach that daily ATR um, in the overnight session, how much room is there left for the markets to go up? Um, so
Yeah,
we
because
get. Go ahead.
um, that's a good point. It's. I mean, we've been doing this in this for what since CPI. Um, with a move before when we open, it's already S&P's 30 35 higher. Um, like you said, be patient. Um, let the market start building whatever your time frame, and don't chase.
Yep, 100%. And when we see a market like this, we were thinking about, how do we get into it? Personally, I don't love buying in the opening range unless the market shows that it's closing outside of it first, getting some confirmation here. But here's a perfect retest of it. And we talked about this on fast markets. We were looking for a potential retest of 980, which was the high of that opening range. But if you watch the price action when we got down here, if you didn't have a pending order out or just click the market button as soon as this happened, you weren't getting into this trade. But the one thing I think we were looking at once we got in, and maybe we got into this trade a little bit late. We did enter on our first contract around 22:30. Um, I think what we did really well in this case was not getting into a full position, being this extended, right? I think the way all of us were looking at the markets was there's potential up to 22,100, but we could either wait for the perfect pullback and have a limit order out there, be ready to take to the trade, or I think what we went with was let's try to build into a position and we still like it. In that case, I think for me, where we set the stop was below this candle, right? This 9 a.m. Central Time candle. The way I was reading this was, and I think we said it on fast markets, as long as the stop goes below this candle, and why did I choose this one? This was the candle where we had a spike of volume. It tested the opening range, got pretty close to VWAP, and rejected. As long as I'm entering above this candle with my stop below it, I'm okay building a position here. Sometimes you're not going to get your full position size at the exact price you want, right? And I think what we did in buying it here, assuming that there was more room up, was hey, let's just get some exposure to the market, and if it gives us the opportunity, we'll get into a bigger size. We ultimately didn't add a ton to it, but the idea was right, right? We'll get in here, and if there's 70 points available to the upside, I have a little bit of a room to build a position. Um, you know, we were trading with minis. You could do the same with micros, where you take two, add on any pullbacks, but it gives you some exposure to the market, gives you some skin in the game. And then if we were to break out, uh, then you don't miss the move. Had a couple perfect retests of that VWAP, and eventually we just broke out um, for a pretty nice trade. Anything else you're seeing here, Coach?
Um, no, no, actually, um, you nailed it. It's pretty much the same in Nasdaq and S&P.
Yep.
Um, I wasn't watching the other two, the Dow and Russell.
The Russell was selling off. The Russell was down over a percentage point today. Ended up the day down 0.74%, but it was going in the opposite direction while everything else was moving to the upside.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I, well, it also felt Nasdaq was leading the way all day.
Agreed.
Um, so yeah, but otherwise, I mean, it was kind of boring to me. I don't.
Do want to zoom out. Actually, here we got Nate Trades with a question. With your opening range strategy, what is the confirmation to get in once VWAP exits the range? Yeah, that should be it, right? VWAP exits the range, and then we want an entry as close to that VWAP as possible. Uh, would I take this trade on a test and VWAP looks like it's trying to leave the range? You could, you could, right? Sometimes we don't wait for perfect entries, but a test and rejection of the range is really the signal, right? First, we need a close outside, so we got the close outside here. We got a test and rejection right here, but I'm not taking this one because VWAP is still in the middle of that range. But this one, it looks like it's trying to leave. I think at this point, if we rewatch fast markets, I was saying, hey, if we get a retest of 980, I think it's a good buy. Calling it out and not taking the trade, but we'll deal with that later. Uh, but once the market starts to close outside, VWAP is trending with the market. This is now a signal to get in. And again, tops and bottoms aren't meant for us. Do I need to get this perfect entry? I don't. Ideally, I do, but getting in somewhere after the market confirms it, as long as you assume there's more room up, this is the signal right here. Uh,
And coach, we talk about getting in near volume.
mhm.
Um, by the time that break, even on that first 3 minute candle, um, there's still, if you wanted to buy your that 50%, right? But after that, let's measure once it gets two ATRs past VWAP.
Like where we bought it.
If you owned it, get out. If you want to fade, if I'm not a good fader, but there are people who like to fade. That looking at those kind of levels, um, I mean, there were some couple good sells. Myself, I want to go with the flow. So if you have a fear of missing out, and it's confirmed, and now, man, this thing's going to go without me, and you jump in, read that. Um, and I think that at that point, put in your orders to buy it in your VWAP. You're going to have less exposure to the downside. I mean, there's always going to be that risk, but I think that did that two or three times.
Yeah,
Um,
it did. It did. And we got a question here from Paul with an H. Hit the like button. As a reminder to hit the like button to everyone here. But where do you take profit on a trade like this? It depends, right? It depends. If you take profit, let's say you were to get in this long and you take profit at these highs, I don't see anything wrong with that, right? And like Coach Paul is saying, that's a two ATR trade. That's 50 points with a one lot mini. If you're trading minis, that's $1,000 right there. If you want to take the trade off there, because the market at that point showed that that's where the high was, uh, that's a great trade, right? And maybe you don't get the low tick, but taking anywhere from 40 to 80% of a 50-point move, I think is a great trade. Now, in this case, we had, and I'm going to zoom out. Let's go to a daily chart because Coach has a daily candle we've been talking about for a while, and we're starting to trade through it. The FOMC candle from December 18th. We're starting to trade. We can see we closed today above 50% of that candle. We're starting to trade through it, and now I'm looking at the highs of that candle as a potential target. But if we zoom out and think about where the market has the potential to go, there is a 30-minute candle. Here it is. This 30-minute candle from when the rate decision was announced is a decent target. If we look back at today, we tested into that candle and rejected. Right, so not accepting that range where the FOMC rate decision was made. Uh, it's a decent target, but you know do you take profits along the way? I think that's okay, right? The market wasn't decisively moving that way until an hour into the session. So if you want to take profits up here, that's fine. Um, I think we took the trade again. We took it a second time on this breakout, and again we were buying away from that VWAP. But at this point, when we test this high a couple of times, this is where I'm more comfortable holding on to that trade, right? And I think we ended up taking it off right in the 60s, uh, but this is where I'm more comfortable holding on to that trade because now the market broke out of this consolidation, and it's showing us that it wants to move higher. So. Uh, you had an opportunity to take anywhere from 40 to 90 points on that trade. It's about how you manage it.
One other thing about taking, if we talked about this for a while yesterday. You get 2 to 1 on a day trade.
Oh,
I mean, that that'll pay the bills, or it's a
buy
good,
some
it's
groceries
just a
for
good
sure.
idea. If you're constantly waiting for a 5 to 1, 6 to 1, and let's consider today's we gapped open, right? What, 35?
Right.
If you can get a 2 to 1 trade in there, you're doing you're doing your job.
On your job, for sure. Um, you might have heard how I was talking about managing this trade when we were in it on fast markets. We don't know where the market is going to stop. For me, I'm okay giving up a couple of points, but once we get to that 2 to 1 coach, and this is exactly what I was thinking while we were in the trade. Once we get some profit, what I like to do is trail the stop up to secure some of that 2 to 1, right? Because if the market wants to run another 200 points and let me in it, great. Might I have to pay 10 points on the upside if it pulls back and gets me out? Probably. But once we get that 2 to 1, that trade is locked in, right? And you almost don't even have to think about it anymore, right? Either give me a 2 to 1 or continue running. I'm good with either one. Um, but at this point, if we take this trade here from the 990s and we get 50 points, there's no way that trade is turning into a loser at that point. That's just bad on your psychology in my opinion. Let's take a look at the S&Ps, and if you see any other questions, coach, let us know. Real quick look at the S&Ps. We are very close to new all-time highs. All-time highs in the S&P 6184. We're less than just a little over 1% away from a new all-time high. We did test the high, closer to the high of that FOMC candle in the S&Ps. Looks a little bit stronger than the Nasdaq right now. Uh, seeing anything different in the S&Ps, coach, or do we want to look at some other markets?
No, let's look at other markets. It's much the same.
Sounds good. We do have you mentioned the Russell. The Russell was a little bit weaker today and selling a little bit, just a little bit of a divergence between these markets, which is fine, right? If you have a hard time buying the S&P and the Nasdaq as it's making or getting ready to make new all-time highs, there are other markets to trade, and the Russell was leading to the downside today, which is a little different.
Um, well, that spread. they're coming in once again, um, risk on, and that's the Nasdaq. So that spread is dominating, and it should in this kind of environment. Um, so I forget to look at the Russell. There's great opportunity in there. If you, but what about the Dow?
Take a look at it on a 30-minute. The Dow looks like the S&P and the Nasdaq.
Okay.
The Russell was just doing its own thing today. It's like I'm my own person. I'm going this I'm going this way. I don't care what you guys do.
So other than that, equities, same thing. Um, onward and upward.
Downward and upward. All right, let's move over to gold. Taking a look at gold here. Still trending upwards. What are you seeing in gold, coach?
Um, just the same thing as we talked about yesterday. Trending upwards, but above the 200. We had nice urgency last night. Um, but once again, if we take that trade we talk about 2 to 1, there it is, done your job. Um, and then although this is like lifting heavy weights. You get to a certain point every day, and it's like follow through is very. I mean, if you didn't catch that, look at what's the rest of the day here?
We did get a couple of it's funny, I said my reads have been a little bit off lately. I'm very happy I hesitated to take a gold short where I was looking to take a gold short. We came back and tested the high of that opening range, that 30-minute opening range a couple of times. Um, but it was a range day, right? We got a one directional move here, but then outside of that, it was a range day between 27.75 and the high of that 30-minute opening range, 27.60, right? So a 17-point range, 15-point range, you'll call it, in gold. Um, Anything in the middle, you were probably getting chopped up, right? If we go down to a shorter time frame, looking at that VWAP being a pretty flat line uh, throughout the New York session, it was chop. But a range bound trader, if this is the price action that you're going to get, I think this is pretty nice. And we've seen gold do this over the past couple of days, right? Where we might have a trend in Asia and London. By the time we get to New York, it ranges. But a 17-point range in gold, 15-point range in gold, I think is decent enough to trade if you can identify what those extremes are and stay out of the middle.
Well, is anybody trading gold? Let's ask the audience.
Yeah, great question.
Because
Anyone trading gold
I
right
look,
now?
I look at that chart there, and for my trading, that's eyes ripped off. Um, but you know, it takes all kinds. So you know that I can't even look at that chart for me. So we don't have many people trading gold, and I don't, but it's probably a reflection of the rest of the world. Um,
Point. Which
let's look
if you were on the floor and the pits were quiet, would you go over there and just place a trade?
absolutely not.
Right.
Um, you could just see it. They'd be quiet. The only people were the market makers or the locals that were close to the paper, and they love days like today. They could buy sevens, sell eights all day long. In a market maker's world or a scalper, it's seven bid at eight, 10 million up. They're like in heaven. They can guarantee they can lean on it. But you'd hear there'd be no noise. Um, so and then you get what? Static, and that was a static market. Um, now, for some people, that's just the best. But gold has been a tough trade here for the last month. Let's look at the daily.
Still trending upwards. We broke once we broke out of that FOMC candle in gold. We've been moving to the upside. We were in this range for a little while, and I think we were also looking at this candle here. Yes, this is the candle we were looking at on the daily, November 25th, which is right before Thanksgiving. We closed outside of that.
Yeah, you know what? I would expect a big move yesterday when we closed above that range. Did we close above that range?
We did close above it yesterday. Yep.
That's looks like we're poised to go to new highs, all-time highs. I just looking at it from there, the 20s back over um, the 50. Um, I'm boy, once again, I'm glad I didn't trade it. I would have been very aggressive buying, but it went off early. But if you look at that range, I mean, really?
The
Uh,
daily, it looks very bullish. And JD just said it in the chat. It's channeling. It's just on the lower time frame. This almost looks like a better swing trade, right? You get a pullback on a daily, buy it, set your stop, and just let it go. But we're day trading here with Topstep accounts, and what it's providing in the day trade, for a day trade right now, on most days is if you don't catch it in the overnight, you got to trade the range.
yeah, or don't trade it.
That too.
Or
That is an option.
once again, try it. I'm gonna this is the way I'm gonna approach it. I really want to buy it. I'm going to try it if with VWAP, but I'm only going to try it once. I am not going to try and force my way into a winner. By the way, I've tried that years ago. Doesn't work. If it was, we'd all be rich. Um, we wouldn't even have to trade. We'd just force it. But I really like the upside in gold. I think brings good opportunity. But that's another one. If you get 2 to 1, take it and run.
What it is. We got a question in the chat from Green Machine. When is gold most active? Best time to trade? That's probably one of the hardest markets to determine that. Gold trades at all times. It's almost like Bitcoin. The Asian session has been decent. We've seen some pretty big moves in London. I'd say the New York session maybe the least favorable for my type of trading, at least, where we've seen some, some consolidation. But then if you look at yesterday, we had a pretty nice move right during the New York session. So gold is the best to trade when volume is in the markets. And if we look at it here, that changes. What would you say, Coach? Any favorable time to trade gold? I know you said you're not even looking to trade it at all.
Um, Gold, you said it. It's open 24/7. It's like crude. It's like Bitcoin. Um, Even on the weekends, it's moving. It's transacting. So I would say, look at the Asian Open, 5 o'clock Central. London Open, 2 to 3 o'clock Central Time, and the New York Open. Look for those opens. That's where, on average, most of the volume going to come. Not all the time, but that's there's no one open. You know, in crude oil, gold, Bitcoin. It's not, and like if you're just trading equities, where most of the time, 90% of the time, the highest volume is going to come in on the open or the close. Um, this is different. So watch those opening times of um, Asia, Europe, US.
Anything else on gold, Coach? You want to move on to another market?
Let's move on to the crude.
Hot gold
Texas tea.
in a downtrend since we hit that $80 level on the December contract. We got back under the 200 moving average a couple days ago, and have just been trending lower. Right, we get a pull up. At some point in the session, it looks like today's was in the London session. We got to pull up and just selling back off again. By the time we get to the New York session, and this has been a common theme, it's not going to stay this way. Maybe it's the fact that the markets are. Uh, this is when the president is awake and speaking. So the markets are just like, okay, he's up now. He's up from his nap. Let's just wait because we're seeing it across the board, right? It's not just um, it's it's not just crude. It's not just the equity markets. It's kind of across the board where things start to slow down when he wakes up. So uh, we had some volatility during that New York session, but some of the cleaner price action is before it, right? Through that London session, maybe through Asia. Uh,
Well, it's in a correction. So we look at the daily, and we got to the level, rejected, supply came on. What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row?
5 days. Huh. I wonder when's the last time we had that.
Um, and interesting. It's kind of coiling here. We talked about that 20-day moving average. Well, it seems like it's on a collision course. But in the meantime, we're on, and so this is a correction. That's why I just wanted. We're over the 200-day moving average. Um, but crude is it's I would call leaking lower versus selling. It's not dramatic. It's stair stepping. Um, Someone might be napping and it goes up and wakes up, it goes down. I didn't. But here we go. Let's look at that half hour again. We've been under that 200. Um, let's put a VWAP from last night. Wow. I know how many yeah. Um, well, being under the 200 on the half hour, I'm looking for places to sell. You might have heard me, like, I take one side of a market and I'm going to trade that side. Um, as we witnessed in gold and here and crude, if you're trading both sides, you have a high probability of getting whipsawed, and it's not a good feeling. I would say it's those days where accounts get blown up, especially in crude. It can be calm and boring until it ain't anymore, right? And then all of a sudden it's $1,200 out of nowhere. But here, plenty. There was opportunity on both sides. But looking at the overall, I mean, that's classic whipsaw. Now, we're gonna have Coach Robert on tomorrow on his pivot. I think there was good opportunities there. We'll have to ask him tomorrow what he sees in the crude. Overall, crude needs to get going. Although he gets to the 200, I mean the 20-day moving average, and we could go right back to what level is that, Coach?
Dollars a barrel. We're just going to talk about it now. It's no secret. The market knows. With
Yeah.
that rejection we saw, we're not the only ones looking at $80. The one thing I am looking at here, Coach, and we mentioned it a couple of times, is you know, in a flat market like this, where we're kind of channeling lower, where's a decent entry? And if we're looking at it, if I'm saying I only want to sell crude oil, and maybe I didn't get the sell here, we get and VWAP is pretty flat, so I don't want my entries around it. Looking at two ATRs away from, and this is on a 30-minute chart at the time, two ATRs away from VWAP, pretty nice sell opportunity. Might have to start looking at that a little bit more.
Hmm. Yeah.
Looking pretty good. Any other markets you want to discuss, Coach? We have about 20 minutes left. We have our friend Mohammed did share his trade report. And maybe we start implementing this a little bit. I know Dakota and I, anytime I'm on slow markets with him, we kind of do trade report reviews, going over trader stats and things like that. Mohammed did share his, so we may bring that up and see how that goes. But any other markets you want to discuss before we do that, Coach?
Well, let's do Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, and then I see Nat Gas in the chart in the chat also, so we'll
Oh
take a
yeah.
look at that. But here we go with Bitcoin. What are you seeing here, Coach?
Um, there we go. Trending up. Look at today. That white line. What is that?
A support or resistance in the world.
I think we traded off of that one, two, three, four times, five times just today. Um, I'd like to, but, to me, for mine, this is a low place, low risk place to buy it. Um, it just kind of, it just, there was no buying. Look at the ranges today. I mean, they're just small. It was a small range ATR wise, and the ranges were tiny. The volume was small. Um, if buyers come in, yeah, look at that. I'm going to do that same thing tonight. If we get some urgency, and I'm going to buy it. Actually, um, I bought one before we came on air against this 200. Um, for my liking, this is a low risk reward trade. Um, so if it gets a bid and the buyers come back in, we're right back up to what is that 108, 109.
We do like this, yeah. We've seen every time it's come down here over the past couple of days, it's been a nice support, nice area to buy here. Of course, anything we talk about here is for educational purposes only, not a suggestion to take a trade. We have Nightbot in the chat, making sure we post that risk disclosure. But I do like this, Coach. We've seen it a couple times. Of course, anything can and will happen. So we'll see how the markets respond. But um, this pattern is a pattern until it breaks, and on a higher time frame, we're in an uptrend.
Yeah. Um, it'll be 200,000 by the end of the week. No,
But we got to get
but
Trump coin above 100.
um, no comment. Bitcoin. I'm trading Bitcoin.
There we go.
Um, but what I really like it is a good place here. That if it doesn't, I'm out. Um, if I don't. If you're not willing to take risk, this is not the place to be. Um, so this is a good place to lean.
If Trump coin is your retirement plan, please stop. And JD, I know you're joking, but uh, that's a it's an iffy retirement plan there. I have no other markets that I want to talk about. Really, we can
Oh,
get into some trade reports. If you have any other questions, let us know. Oh wait, NetGas,
I guess.
NetGas.
Where I saw there was 10 inches of snow somewhere in Florida.
I don't know what is going on.
Well, that that's surely helping that gas. um, I, I was shocked to see what. For those people who went to Florida to get away from it. By the way, this is northern. I think it was in northern Florida. But it was the biggest snowstorm in 130 years. It's been
I was seeing
around.
that
That's even longer than I've been around.
New Orleans had the most snow it's had since 1895, uh, which is pretty wild to think about. Some people have been living there their entire lives and never seen snow. Um, and then you get over a foot.
Over a foot. I really, the driving has got to be crazy. But look at that. I mean, that's that is a melt up. Wow. Now, can that's not going to well, most likely. I can't say it's not going to sustain it. There's a high probability. We got over the 200. It's got to hold that for me. Um, l- let's look at the daily. Boy, filled that gap.
Build the Sunday gap. Here
Wow.
is the daily
Oh, what did it go to yes in today's low?
yellow line, 220 moving average on the daily chart,
Wow.
pretty much the low of the day within a couple points. Uh,
Huh.
that looks
Well,
bullish.
yeah, that does look bullish. So buy the dip, huh? Um, wow, that's just actually picking up steam. So, um, how many people are trading? We used to cover the natural gas daily. Is anybody out there trading natural gas?
Many nat gas traders do we have out there? While we do that, I want to answer a question from N Slug that we have out there. Normally, I hate these slow grinds uh, starting, overnight. When VWAP is grinding along with price, like it was in the pre-market, do you consider it safer to join that slow grind? Yeah, as long as that, and I think you're talking about the equity markets here. So we'll go back to a Nasdaq chart real quick. Let's see. As long as this VWAP leaves the range, and it's not going to be the most comfortable trade, right? Unless it goes pretty quick. As long as this VWAP leaves a range, is it safer? I think any trade is safe as long as your risk is defined. Um, but I think it's okay to join this trend, right? It's going to be slow, right? You're not going to get the most favorable price action. Uh, and I think what we really have to think about a lot of times is not about where price ended up going, but how it got there. And does that align with your trading style? Yes, this is a decent trend to join, um, even before we know the outcome, right? It's here. Any pullbacks to VWAP look like decent buys. Uh, but if you're saying, I want to catch this entire move and maybe I zoom out and look at a daily chart or a 4 hour and have some higher time frame targets, uh, think about how long you might have to sit in this trade, right? In order to get this price action just to the New York Open, if we get somewhere, one of these pullbacks, you're holding a trade for 8 hours at least. Um, and that's fine. We see a bunch of traders that do it on the leaderboard that are holding trades, right? The risk team says it all the time. Some of the best traders that they see get in part of the trend and hold it, right? But you have to one trust that trade idea. In this slow grind, it gave you some signals, right? I think we had a trader up 300K today across 5 XFAs. They had to capture a big part of this move in order to do that. Now, I don't know exactly. We'll hear a little bit more about how they traded it, but if we hear the risk team talk about that trade tomorrow, and they said the hold time was 10 hours. Sorry, I'm talking on mute. They saw something in this price action that said get long and held it. Uh, I'm assuming that's what the trade was, right? So is this a difficult trade to take? It depends on what your trade style is. But
Well,
you,
coach, with that, if you want to take the trade, you have to accept the risk of somehow. If you're watching that tick by tick by tick and think that you have to watch it, you haven't accepted the risk. So taking that in, understand that risk, and turn it off. See what happens. If you're comfortable in a trade, you will do that. If you put your stop in, I believe the more you watch it, the more you're going to doubt it because you're going to it's you're in the quantum world. Every tick is well, for you, against you, or for you, or against you. Oh, I should have got out there. I could have got. Oh, now it's going to go back, and I'm going to give it all away. All those doubts, all that anxiety. If you really want to do that trade, you got to do it and don't watch it.
percent. Uh, let's see, Coach. Any other markets that you want to discuss from here? I'm gonna get Mohammed's. As soon as I can figure that out. Mohammed's trade report up so we can take a look at that. And if anyone else, Coach, what do you think? Well, maybe we'll talk about it a little bit offline, but we can start doing some reviews of trade reports just to kind of see how traders are doing. If we're going to do this, I am going to ask that either we share XFAs, live accounts, or combines that you are trading really well and have some data in, or not even trading really well, but trading over a course of time where we can have data to review. Um, we do have Mohammed's trade report here, and Mohammed said we need more likes in order for us to review his trade report. So if we can get it over, if we can get it over 100, Mohammed, I appreciate you, man. If we can get it over 100, we will go ahead and review Mohammed's trade report, and I will get that queued up and ready to go. That's the YouTube chat. You don't want that there. I'm just gonna move that down here. Or if you guys have any other questions, let us know. We can answer those. Any other markets you want to look at, Coach? Or we're good to go on
Um,
that?
I'm good to go.
Okay, awesome.
Um, get those likes.
Let's
Are
get
we
those
there
likes.
at 100 yet?
Are we at 100 yet? Mohammed will give us the go ahead. We're at 110 right now. Okay, awesome. Look at that. Ask and you shall receive. It works for Mohammed all the time. He knows exactly what to
He's
ask.
got he's got diamond hands.
Right. All right, let's get into it. So Mohammed did say that he is struggling right now to secure profits on a trade. This is on his trades. This is a new XFA. I think we had a restart. Mohammed was trading in some XFAs. Been on the live leaderboard. Um, Mo, I would love to get you on the show one day, so you can join, kind of talk through it
Yeah,
a little bit, and kind of talk through your trading, your struggles with trading. I'll talk through mine. I've been trading like shit over the past week or so. Um, just kind of mentally not there. Coach Paul and I talked about it a little bit yesterday. There are times where I'm just like, I don't really feel like placing a trade, and that's okay. I think what's most important in that is to not place the trades, right? And listen to yourself. It's not going to be forever. Taking a couple of days off just from having to perform all the time, I think is helpful with my trading. So that'll save me money knowing when to stay out of the markets. Mohammed says, my issue always is keeping the profit. All my bad days previously ended up personal daily loss limit. All right, so let's see if we can bring this trade report up here. We'll take a look at it, Coach. You can let me know if you see anything as well. I'll share you the link so you can pull it up on your side. And then if this works out really well, chat, we'll consider adding this as part of the segment every day. Maybe we review two traders. I think this is might be the precursor to getting some of you on the show and kind of talking through some of your trades. So I sent you that in Discord, Coach. I will.
yeah. I'm waiting for it to open.
All right.
And one more comment. Um, you know, trading doesn't work on a straight line.
Right.
There's drawdowns. You have no control of which trade. I don't care there, who you are. You have no control of whether the trade you're entering is a winning trade or a losing trade. And even the thought of winning or losing, you're executing a plan. But there's drawdowns in any trader's performance. It's how you act in that drawdown. If you're not feeling it, guess what? You don't have to trade emotionally, physically. But even in a drawdown, you feel good. You have to execute a trading plan. In that trading plan, there's going to be losing days. Um, if you can't accept that or you have trouble taking that, it's only going to spiral. So I think it's healthy to understand here. It's becomes risk management. Take the trades as they come. On the opposite side, when you're on a roll, that roll is not going to stay there. You're going to give some of it back, um, and that's a hard mental thing to accept. And I think when you're first trading, we used to the older traders would say to younger traders, hey, when you started? I lost. Good. Because, just like poker, beginner's luck, you can enter that and just get lucky. That happens. But luck is not a process. So if you're struggling and you're following your plan, you're trading the plan, it comes with the territory. So understand, and then if you're not following your plan and you're struggling, then you have to take some time off mentally, emotionally, physically, all the above.
Percent.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Mohammed's trade report up here. He says the lower average win loss is because I exit my profitable trades in small tranches. It should be at least a 1 to 1. Never exit from a profitable trade unless 1 to 1. All right, so let's take a look at this. The one thing I'm seeing here, and again, this is a new XFA. Mohammed, we've seen how you trade on Topstep TV a bunch, where you're using micros, you're scaling in and out of trades. The one thing I'll say, from a coach's perspective, and it's funny. Sometimes people say, how are you giving advice when you're not trading well yourself? Sometimes you can see better what someone else is doing. Mohammed, when you trade really well, the markets are trending, and your moving average strategy, where you're buying or selling on these pullbacks, are great. I think what I've seen from your trading, and you can see it in this report as well, I think you could probably extrapolate this, right? Where you do have a really high win rate on your trades, the way you're trading and you're scaling in and out. Um, I think it's the big losses that hurt here, right? 70% win rate is awesome. Um, and I think you can maintain that the way you trade. Uh, but and you can give your input on this too, coach, but when we a lot of times when we see traders have stats like this with a win rate, one big losing day wipes everything out, right? Where we're not accepting what that loss looks like, and setting a daily loss limit. Um, because your average winners are a little bit smaller than your average losses. All of this is fine, right? We can't look at any of these numbers individually. It's the whole picture. Um, but I think just managing that losing trade, um, and just accepting what it's going to be, uh, is the key here, because you can clearly put up big numbers every day.
Um, Also, I think what I heard is daily loss limit days are hurting you.
Yep.
Maybe I don't know what your daily loss is, a personal or is it the 50%? I don't know that, but right away, from my experience, is bring that down. Those are the ones, and coaches said it, that are hurting, and any of us. I had to go through it too. Mine is 12 to 15%. Mine personally, it's 12%. Um, because I have spun out of control when I was younger, more than I can count. So maybe tighten that up a little bit. Um, and I think because on days that are trending, you're doing well. Well, that's the 20, but it trends 20% of the time, grinds the other 80%. Um, Maybe bring it in a little. Don't let those big days bring it down.
It says personal daily loss limit is 2,800 on the accounts, and I think you're trading a 150K account. Um, and that might be it, right? Like this big drawdown, you're able you're within that daily loss limit. You were able to recover it. Uh, it's just these swings. I do see a lot of trades, and I don't want to. Everyone trades differently, right? So could I coach someone on how to take this many trades a day? Probably not. But if the numbers work out for you, and the risk is managed, keep doing exactly what you're doing. Just limiting that downside, maybe pulling that personal daily loss limit in a little bit. Um, until you build the account balance. And Mo, you've been in the top 20 on the leaderboard, so I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. But I think in order to get back there, right, just limit that downside until we can build the balance where that $2,800 losing day is a comfortable loss, and not putting you close to that account loss limit.
Yeah.
Um,
And by the way, you're a good trader. We've done that. And you know it, you come back from it. Um, but one of the turtle trading rules that really helped me, the Turtle Group, legendary trading group, is you know they you, they scale down.
yep.
Um, just scale size down. Um, by percentage of your trading equity. That helped me personally.
Great start to this account, though. Great start to this account. You are trading the micros. I know you trade with some size. The only other question I would ask is, uh, and then this is a question for all of us: how many of your trades are um, kind of just clicking the button trades? Uh, where if you review it, it's just like there was really no setup there. I kind of just felt like doing something and I did it. That's what my trades have been over the last week, and I need to get out of that cycle, but that's what they've been. It's just like I have a clean setup, I don't take it, and then when I review what I did, it's just like, oh, you just clicked the button because you felt like clicking a button. Uh,
Who was
so
that guy?
yeah, who the hell did that?
Who did that? Wasn't me.
He needs to be fired immediately. Um, and Mohammed said 15% of them, right? So if we right eliminating those, right, eliminating just the randomness, where our playbook trades are not going to work out sometimes, right? But then if we add on top, uh, just garbage on top of it, it makes it even harder to actually maintain the account. So finding what we can to kind of eliminate those trades, right? That 15% could save you some money in this account as well. But again, great start to this account. Uh, and keep doing what you do. I think we'll see you on Topstep TV soon. So we will be there. And thank you, Mohammed, for sharing. We are up on time, but I think this is a good addition to the segment. So we'll figure out exactly how we're going to add this and have traders share their trade reports so we can review them um, going forward. And maybe we bring some people on to review your trade reports, kind of talk through your setups and what you're looking at, and go from there. Anything else you want to talk about before we go, Coach?
No, we're right at time here. Um, Once again, focus on your risk management, keep the count alive, execute your plan, trade your plan, and plan your trade.
Well, Mohammed has one more. Oh, we got a couple of questions in the chat before we go. Uh, if I'm long 5 contracts with a 20-point stop, I end up with 20 contracts. Is that wrong in your opinion? Um, so I would ask, what is your max allocation? And if you start off with 5 and end up getting to 20, are you adding because it's a good trade, or are you adding because the market might be pulling back against you? Right. I think anytime we add to a trade, it should be an add. I like to think about adding to trades. What would I do if I didn't have a position on? Would I put a position on here, or am I just adding to it because I want to click a button? Um, and one more question: are trading patterns reliable, i.e., a head and shoulder wedges? What conditions should be met? I think anything is reliable, and anything, everything works and everything doesn't work. And you might not want to hear that, but I really think it depends. I don't place any trades based on technical patterns that way. Looking at head and shoulders and things like that, but that does not mean it's wrong, right? I just haven't found a repeatable way to do so. But what would you say, Coach? Are
Oh,
technical patterns?
they're reliable.
Yep,
If you follow the rules,
there you go.
and even before rules, principles, understand them, follow the rules to execute them, and on top of that, the highest part of the hierarchy on top is risk management. Um, so yeah, I used to trade trend lines. I know I still I know friends of mine who that's all they look at are trend lines and they do well. Do they have losing days? Absolutely. Do they have losing periods? Absolutely. But overall, they keep executing their plan, and so yeah, yep, they're reliable, and which gives me going back to, am I reliable in executing the strategy?
There you go. Trade well, manage your risk. We got a bunch of classes coming up. Coach Hoop has a class right after this at 4:30 Central Time in Discord. Then we have Coach Ray and Coach Vince in Discord also 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Central Time. Of course, Dakota with slow markets at 7:30 Central. I'll be on with him tonight. And then we got a new class. If you saw on Monday in Discord, Coach Jack and I did a session in Discord around 11 a.m. Central Time. Tomorrow, that's going to be Coach Paul and Coach Jack talking about some other markets, right? Some of the agricultural markets. So I will be joining that, just tuning in, see what you guys have to talk about. But that will be in Discord as well. Check the Discord calendar for any of the events there. Of course, we have Deanna with the London Open at 3:30 a.m. Central Time. Uh, ton of content out there for you, ton of trading education, hopefully making you a better trader. I think find a coach that resonates with you, and then ask as many questions as possible when you join their sessions. Um, and once you figure out a strategy, trade it well, manage your risk, and we will talk to you all tomorrow. Thanks, coach.
All right. Thanks. Bye.